Hi, so I wanted to talk to you today about tactical shotguns. Tactical shotguns are, for a civilian point of view, something that you're probably going to be most likely to use within the confines of your own home and defending yourself against unwanted intruders. For a tactical operator's point of view, that's going to be something a little bit more broad in terms of you could use it as a breaching tool, you could use it as something to fire specialist munitions, or you could use it as an anti-personnel option as well. Something that makes a tactical shotgun tactical is that it's not a sporting shotgun, it's not an over and under, it's not a side by side, it's probably going to be a pump action or a semi-auto. I've got three options to show you. I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of each and just kind of talk around why these are suitable for that role. So the first one is a Mossberg 500 tactical. It's almost identical to a Remington 870 in terms of how it functions and operates. You can see it's relatively long, but the barrel is 18 inches. That's going to be important a little bit later. Very, very simple to operate. It has a little button here which you use to manipulate the slide. You can tell it's empty. Has a simple safety bar here and a trigger, plus the pump. That's what makes it work. So the magazine, which is this tube here, holds 5 rounds. So you could put 5 plus 1, so a maximum of 6. These are training rounds, shells, simulating a 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge round. And you could have solid slug, buckshot, birdshot, CS incapacitants, cayenne pepper incapacitant, breaching rounds, all sorts of things. And that's going to be relevant as well a little bit later. So with one of these, what you do in order to load it, action forward like it is now, and you load in from the underside with your offhand while your manipulating hand is here, and so on. Now, this is important, this is breach safe. So I would always keep the safety on fire, because then I don't have to worry about it from a tactical point of view. And I know that the breach is safe because as I'm mounting it here, I can just turn and look, manipulate it back and check that the breach is clear. So this is breach safe. This means that it doesn't matter what I do with this, it's not going to go off. Why is that relevant? Well, from an operator's point of view, one of my roles was as a breacher, or I would be used to stop a vehicle. So after I'd discharged a number of rounds, one of my roles would be I would go forward and do prisoner handling. That is suboptimal if you have a loaded shotgun with you, which has a temperamental safety. And also, I just don't want a loaded gun. Now, a pistol is a different matter because that's going to be holstered. It's going to be so I won't be waving it around. A carbine I can put to safe and sling, but a shotgun's a little bit harder to kind of handle. So I enjoyed having that option to keep it breach safe. So I'm firing the shotgun. There's nothing in it right now. I move forward to the point at which I wish to engage. From a home defense point of view, I move forward, say the front door, and I rack it. Ooh. I get it all tangled up. These training rounds don't work too well. So I move forward to the point at which I want to engage, rack the gun, now it's ready to use. Say I discharge a round, and then if I don't want to discharge any more, I just leave it, because we've got an empty piece of plastic inside the breech. This is still breech safe. I then make the choice, do I want to fire again? Put another one in, I can discharge that round, and then it's breech safe. So I like the simplicity of this particular mode of firearm. I like the fact that it's easy to know when it's breech safe and when it's not. I like the fact that I have complete control over what's going on. The downsides are it's a little bit long for a tactical firearm, harder to move around in confined spaces compared to, say, a carbine or a pistol, but very, very effective, very, very effective piece of kit. Moving on to another alternative. This is a Kel-Tec KSG. You'll see these in the movies. They're very cool to look at. Very, very short. This also has an 18-inch barrel from here, this time to back here, because it's the bullpup design. So the barrel length is actually the same, but as you can see, one of these is considerably longer than the other. So that makes this more manoeuvrable in tight spaces, tighter to hold, a little bit harder kick on the recoil because there's less stuff here to manage the recoil. This also has 2 magazines which can hold 7, because this one 18-inch barrel, the magazine tube stops here. This one 18-inch barrel, the magazine tube stops here. So it will hold 7 2 3/4 inch rounds compared to 5. This particular one has a little manipulation facet there, safety is here. This time you load it into the rear in there, and you can see you've got this little toggle switch that switches between each of the magazine tubes. So going back to the Mossberg, if you say had, I don't know, buckshot anti-personnel munitions within your shells, and you decided that you wanted to put a CS round through a door, or for whatever reason, from a civilian point of view, you've got the buckshot in there. What you do is you rack out the buckshot, so you keep that or throw it away, whatever. The next round of buckshot's going to pop in, so you would roll that out, then you get your you get off some sort of a bandolier out of a pocket of other munitions, pull out your CS, pop that in, rack it forward, and then you deliver that round, and then you continue with the rest of what's going on here. One of the features of having 2 tubes is that you can put one munition in one tube and a different munition in the other tube. So you could have solid slug and buckshot, buckshot and birdshot, buckshot and CS, buckshot and breaching rounds. Just however you want to do your loadout as you see fit, depending on how you want to do it. From a home defence point of view, you might put birdshot and buckshot. So you've got your birdshot for if you're concerned about over-penetration, and buckshot if you're not so concerned. Anywho, you switch between the 2 tubes like so, but you're going to have to rack out the round that's in there. So, for example, you've loaded up. It's a little bit more awkward to load though, I think, just because of the angle that things have to be done. So you load up, you're doing what you do, you decide I want to change round, so you have to either move your support hand back and switch, which is one of the ways I quite like it because I've still got the firearm ready to go, or you move your whole thumb back here and you do it this way. It's one of those 6 or 1 half a dozen of the other. So either here or here. But you would rack out the round that's in, and then switch. Well, you'd rack it up, switch, and then go. In order to check that this is breech safe, because it's one of the features of a tactical shotgun that you want to be able to check, with this one you're going to have to manipulate the catch here, pull the slide back, but then tilt it forward and look. So if you can see, whoop, it fell out. Start that again. So I pulled it back too far. So I'm going to load it. I want to check to see that it's loaded. And whoop, as I pull it back, you should just be able to see. Gotta be careful. There you go. But it's a little bit more awkward, just to kind of, there it is, and then back in. So it's possible to do, it's just not quite as slick as that kind of turning over. So with the Mossberg, it's loaded, you want to check, you just kind of tilt it over, check you've got one in, back in, and you're good to go. I find that a slicker, easier, more efficient way to do it. The Kel-Tec, it just requires a little bit more fooling around, but then again it is much more compact, carries more than twice as many rounds, and it's a lot of fun to shoot, if I'm perfectly honest, albeit the recoil is a little bit higher. Okay, so moving on to another option which we could use would be, just getting the spare, would be a semi-auto. This is a Panzer BP-12, Panzer Arms. This is Turkish made. Has some AR control features like the slide release, but it's a bullpup. So this time what you're going to do with this particular one, this is a faux suppressor, it's not real. This has a 20-inch barrel from here to here. You load it with a magazine. Big old magazine, but only carries 5 rounds. So it doesn't actually give you any round advantage over the Mossberg. However, what you would do, just like with any other magazine, you're loading these in the top. So, and then you get your magazine, load it in there. This has a charging handle here, and you're ready to rock and roll. Fire selector switch, and this is quite nice as well because you can again check to see if you're breech safe by tilting over. Breeches here, look, yep, you can see there's a round in, let it go. So similar, different, but similar to the Mossberg, so very quick to check. Compact, a little bit longer than the Kel-Tec, but shorter than the Mossberg, with a longer barrel. Very high rate of fire because it's going to go boom, 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 boom each time you pull the trigger. If you want more than 5 rounds, well, what you're going to do is you're going to pull out this 5-round magazine and you're going to put in a 10-round magazine, which makes it somewhat more cumbersome, but it's perfectly functional. It's just, God, it's a big old thing. So the thing you would do with this over the other two is you would get your different loads per mag. So you would have 1 mag buckshot, 1 mag slug, 1 mag CS, 1 mag, you know, whatever you want to do. And you would switch between mags, being cognizant that you have to eject the mag in, the round in, which may already be in there. Now, one of the drawbacks over a semi-auto from a pump is that whole breech safe thing. So with a semi-auto, you are firing and it just reloads the next one, reloads the next one. And unless you go through an unload procedure, you're never going to be breech safe. You're going to have to put the safety on and rely on the safety. So from a prisoner handling point of view, I prefer the ability to decide whether or not another round goes in. So semi-autos have a place. A lot of fun to shoot. This is a very capable firearm. But the main drawback I have with a semi-auto over a pump is that choice, whether or not I'm going to load the next round. Now the other thing about these as well, and this is just kind of a user tip, it has a gas-operated blowback system. And when it's new, things aren't really warning. It's going to take you 150 to 200 rounds before this is going to start functioning reliably. I've had a few friends that have bought these and they've been, you know, they've called me up and been, oh, it doesn't work. And it's like, okay, how many rounds have you put through it? Oh, I put like 1 box. Well, okay, go away, put 5 or 6 more boxes through it. The boxes are 25 rounds. Then come back and tell me that it's not working. It just needs breaking in, just like a pair of shoes or something like that. You have to break in a semi-auto to allow the working parts to work out those little kinks, and then they start functioning things appropriately. Pump actions, they're not going to do that. So from a breaching tool point of view, I like the manually operated ones. Maybe that means I'm old school, I don't know. I'm not going to say I don't like this firearm. I think it's fantastic. I have a lot of fun on range with this. I haven't used one of these operationally. I've used a semi-auto. What we used to use on the teams was a Benelli, and that looked pretty much like this, but it had a little toggle here, and you would switch between semi-auto and pump, and depending on what you were doing. So if you knew you were going to be taking out a door and firing lots and lots of rounds, you'd put it onto semi-auto and just boom, 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 and it was demonstrably quicker. But if you're doing something else and you wanted to kind of have that shantai, you would flick it over to pump, and then you would make the choices. Personally, I got slick enough just using it in pump that I would just use it like that all the time. Anywho, that's just a little bit of an overview of a tactical shotgun. 3 different examples. They're all as good as each other, but there's just, you know, it depends what you want from them. This is the simplest, the cheapest, and you can't go wrong with one of these. This one's next, most expensive, a lot of fun. Your friends are all going to want to use it on the range, and I highly recommend these types of things. You can get these that basically look like ARs. They're just shotguns. I like the bullpup because it's shorter, and I'm European, and you know, that's just how we roll. This is going to be a lot more expensive, but boy, you're going to have a good time, and the people in the line are going to start looking for it because you don't run out of rounds. You just boom, 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 boom. If you put the little short ones in, the minis, you're talking 12 per tube. So 24 shotgun shells that you can potentially be using in this configuration. Obviously not quite as powerful, but I still wouldn't want to be standing in front of one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that was a little bit informative for you. As always, if you have any questions, please write down underneath or message me. If you want any more info of what we do, we've got a critical care first aid with critical care defence, international Krav Camp, and Krav Maga Universal.